Hello and welcome back to Crossroads of Cognizance, here where we talk about all things woo woo, witchy, healing, metaphysical, and everything that's going on in between all of that. I'm holding down the fort over here is Dahlia Rose on the East Coast, and I have a wonderful co host.
Oh,
I am so, you have no idea, like you being in the world and then to be able to say that you're still in the world. Me.
that has been quite a gift. I tell you what, we are a mutual admiration society of two. That is for certain. Uh, Nothing that was ever put out there publicly at all, although I will be speaking and writing about it a little bit moving forward, is that I just went through kind of a health crisis. I guess you would even take off the kind of, it was a health
Yeah, it
crisis.
was it
It
was a
was
health
a spirit crisis. It was a walkabout. It was so many things. And I've been going through this since November and having procedure after procedure becoming more and more life threatening and it being a real mess. And, these are the things that healers do not put out there. One of the bad things about being a healer, and there really are not many, but one of them is that you do have people that have negative feelings like envy and um, resentment and fear and just all sorts of things regarding what we do. And so those are things that because we are empathic and because we do work energetically, that we pick up on when it's thrown at us in some way, and it can affect our ability to help others. So when we are going to be compromised or when we are compromised, we don't put that out there
Nope.
until we know that we're in a safe place. And so it was quite a journey. And I just want to say thank you to Dahlia, who was such a great hand holder during the whole time. Just, I could not, if I had a beloved sister at my side, shirking her family and kids and everything just to hold space for me and be close to me, it uh wouldn't be any less or any more than what Dahlia did for me. And I just appreciate her being there. Also Nicole Parker Adams, who's my therapist and my soul sister and my the board that holds me upright a lot of the time. Sometimes when it's swinging at me. Um, but those two especially just really kept me going when I was struggling so hard with some of the things of why and what and what that sort of thing. And of course, with I'd say it goes without saying, but it doesn't. Eric, my husband, was such an amazing caregiver. I've been married to him for 25 years, been with him 26 years, and I never saw that capacity for selfless, compassionate caregiving like he
Wow.
has done for me. He stepped up in a huge, huge way. He also tilted his hand a little bit. I didn't know he could cook, and he can. So we've learned that. That's good info to have. So now that I'm safe, I have thought about when we talk about healing, boy, is that an active and a passive word. And transitive, intransitive, whatever you want to say, we are healing, but we are also healing.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful to still be in the world. I'm grateful to share that world with Dahlia. And it's just been a magical mystery walk. So I'm really excited to still be here. And what's really weird is when you think you're going to die and you don't, it's really strange because you are still here and it feels like everything is very suddenly possible. You've started to kind of shut down ideas of what will be and what won't be. You start to let go of dreams. You start to reshape your vision of the world and your place in it and evaluate what you've done, what you've been. And when that's given back to you very suddenly, and they say, no, this was totally curative, you're not gone, you're staying here, it just changes everything very abruptly. So that's been a lot of fun and very amazing. So yeah, that's the long answer.
Well, and what an appreciation, right? Like you get to know what's really important in that purging process beforehand, and then when you're back and you're like, I'm still here. You're like, I'm not gonna pick that shit back
Yeah,
up.
yeah, you can stay and away it goes.
Right.
And even traumas, it's interesting to say that traumas don't seem as significant.
Mm,
there's so much as you're walking through that shadow that you can just drop, that you can let go and not have it be an influence for you anymore. Even it can really change your perspective. It shows you who in your world is there to support you and assist with you. We a lot of what we do is about helping other people.
Right.
And so we tend to, I say we as healers, but also we as Virgos. And, we tend to go up on that cross martyr style, and I don't need any help. And,
But here, take my kidney.
yes, please. Cross face is not attractive. It just, you can't make pretty faces. and but we tend to reject, not necessarily reject help, but not expect help.
Right.
And so when we are compromised and it's our turn, so to speak, and the people that you expected don't show up for you, don't check in with you, don't say, hey, how are you doing, I've been thinking about you, you know it's very enlightening. And
Mm.
so that changed your perspective too on the, not the value of the people around you, but where they can be in your life. And that was really amazing.
Absolutely. I tend to use the analogy with my clients like, okay, so now you know that this person will wreck your car. So you get a new car and you don't give them the keys. You can give them a
Do not give
ride.
them the keys.
They can take pictures in front of it and tell you how wonderful it
Mhm.
is, but they cannot drive it.
You're not driving the
No, they
car.
cannot drive the car.
No, no.
So,
So that it's just lots of cobweb clearing, lots of presumptions and assumptions that shift, and it makes room for a different kind of connection to the divine as well, and that's always good. It, um, in some ways changes the way that you pray and changes
mm.
the way that you connect, and that's our topic of today.
Great segue.
Uh, did that all by myself,
Flawless.
Giselle.
So yes, we are talking about meditation and connection. I didn't realize how often someone brought this to my attention. I didn't realize how often we talk about it.
We're
Uh,
jabberbots about it, man.
and one of the things that I feel called to do in this world is to make things accessible. When I was coming up as a baby woo woo person, I ran into a lot of people that would just sort of mysteriously be connected, and they just kind of float across the room and never touch the floor. And I wanted that. But nobody could ever tell me how. It was just, if you know, you know. And if you don't, then you try as hard as possible. And it didn't make sense. And so,
That's because it's bullshit.
it is utter
Yes.
utter bullshit. When people, one of my favorite comments from people is like, "Oh, you seem so calm," and I was like, "I know, no, I definitely freak out, definitely have those moments, but meditation helps."
It does.
Is it my go-to 100% of the time? Absolutely not. I like breaking things, but um, no, I don't know where I would be without meditation as an access point for everything. Um, I think in the beginnings, you're told to meditate to connect with your spirit guides and to to figure out your past lives. And it's like, okay, first you have to wrap your head around the fact that you have these things. Like if you didn't grow up in church or if you grew up in church but there were no angels, then you've got some new concepts to onboard. And then the concept of past life, like what? Wait a minute. What do you mean? This isn't the only one? Why does it feel like this one is crashing and burning? Do I care about the other ones? If I know them, what do I do with that information? Right? So back to basics with meditation, there's great opportunity for us to connect with ourselves. And that's kind of what the show's about a little bit. It's going to be all over the place, guys. Like it always is.
We are so scattered today. But one thing we are completely parallel about is that thing of seeing coming in as a baby witch with the woo-woo factor. And oh my gosh, these people have just got it. I will never be on par with them. I will never be as cool as they are. I don't have enough years to catch up to where they are. And what people don't get, and Corby used to talk about this quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
is that a lot of that is sham. A lot of that is pretension. A lot of that is just, I mean, this is not a John of God thing where you just are in the presence of magnificence, whether you suspect there's something else going on or not.
That part.
It, yeah, that part. Uh, but she had a real hard on about the gurus. She did not dig on those gurus and that presentation of just being so holy and sacred and together and everything. And a lot of times, the reason that and I say we now because I've done this for around 40 years, is what reason we present that way, and the reason people can look at us and say, "Oh my God, how are you so calm?" is that you're not seeing all of the ways that we're working on this. And possibly, I mean, what really does it for me is that now have a history of showing that whatever is going on, including my most recent experience, no matter how bleak it is,
Mm-hmm.
scary it is, defaming it is, upsetting it is going to work out in my favor. It always will. That doesn't mean it's not going to hurt. Doesn't mean it's not going to be a horrible experience. Doesn't mean I'm not going to cuss it into the ground. It means that when this is done, it will be to my favor. And if it is not to my favor, it is not yet done.
Mm.
It's still processing, evolving, and working on it. And so once you get to a certain point, magically speaking, you have a body of evidence that supports in a big way. Don't worry, we've got you. Now, like you were mentioning, I was raised very Protestant Christian, and we did not have angels. And that is such a weird thing for me to think of Christianity without angels right now
Yeah.
on this side of it. But I never heard of an archangel other than what happened in the Bible. I never heard of a guardian angel other than, just cute little shows on TV and that sort of thing. And so I wasn't raised to connect with my ancestors. I wasn't raised that there are spirit guides.
Mm.
I was raised with ideas such as, "Oh, grandma loved you and she's looking over you now," and that sort of thing. So, like you were saying, exactly. Once we start to think of and consider these ideas, that there might be something beyond God or different than God and beyond ourselves that we need to reach out to or explore, it's overwhelming. It's a lot. And when you talk about people meditating and, "Oh, I just meditated on it and I could start to see the components of it. I could start to see what it does and what it is." That just sounds beyond what anything can do. "Oh, I meditate and everything goes completely still and quiet." My head is never quiet. And so it just seemed impossible. And like you, my thought once I got to a teaching place with this was, I need to show people how accessible this is.
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, this is very secret." No, it really isn't. "This is very high level stuff." No, it isn't. "This is hard. This is difficult. This is challenging. This is scary. This is woo." No, it's really not. And magic and the whole magical world isn't meant to be a fearful place.
No.
It's meant to be a respectful place. It's not meant to be a difficult place. It's meant to be a rewarding and um, accomplished place.
I mean, this
So
is
that's my take. Is I completely agree with you.
well that what you just described is what meditation affords you, because it's not that meditation changes the external. I mean, I oftentimes when people come to me for meditation teaching, and I would say oftentimes within since 2020, it's been I'm anxious and I'm trying to get a hold of this anxiousness, as if meditation is the guardian against that.
Mhm.
And the peacefulness, the respectfulness, the sense of flow in life that comes with meditation comes from the restructuring of what's going on inside,
It's
rather than,
like a
yeah,
defrag on your computer.
exactly.
Yeah.
You
Puts
know,
it like
and
Tetris in order.
oh, I love that game. Hours
Yeah.
of that game. Um, instead of, oh, this is the way that I push this thing that doesn't belong inside of me out. You know, anxiety in some cases is intuition on overdrive.
Mhm.
And, and that's not all cases. There are chemical imbalances and other things to be spoken of.
Mhm.
But meditation offers you an option, a pathway to telling it to not run so fast and so far that you cannot understand what's happening. You can only fear what you can't tell is going on.
Mhm. Whether you want it to or not, want it to be so or not, everything that's happening to you, every thought, every memory that you have, every emotion that you feel is a part of you. It's an intricate part of you. And it's not just a part of your life process, it's a part of you. And meditation helps you to see how it fits into the composition of you.
Mhm.
And it happens automatically. You don't have to push it. You don't have to squinch really hard. You don't have to force it to organize. Once you begin to meditate, it will automatically organize. And the challenge that I have, and I love the reframing that we did several episodes ago, is that people have a complete misconception about what meditation is. And I would really like to have, go into this part of our discussion with what actually is meditation. Now, people think that it's sitting in lotus position and thinking really deep thoughts or thinking no thoughts. And it really is about looking for the spaces in between the thoughts
Mm.
and making them bigger so that the extraneous thoughts begin to fall away. And the thoughts that then come into view are all the more valuable because they made it through that screening process. And later, if you journal about what you thought about during that time or what came to you, especially if it's an original thought, if it's something that isn't connected to other thoughts that were going on when you sat down to meditate or that came up organically, just something that just showed up is almost always extremely valuable. And it's not silence. It's not sitting in a white room looking at a white screen. It's active. It's a proactive experience. It's not passive at all.
Right. And I think as a great example, so Sylvia was saying everyone around me needs me to meditate first thing in the morning, otherwise chaos ensues. And I wanted to touch on that in the reframing of this, the space between the thoughts. It sounds like, and Sylvia, we're not telling you how to live your life or what's actually happening, but it sounds like when you meditate and you expand the space between your thoughts, their chaos doesn't invade yours. When you expand that space, you expand into who you are. And I think that is something that's not talked about as a result of meditation as well. When you can, first of all, you shouldn't just, in my opinion, be sitting down to meditate. There are things that take place before that. And depending on your conditions, your abilities, um, even your temperament, there may be things that need to happen. For the people that are like, I can't still my mind. Well, maybe you need to do something. Stephen Covey, I don't know about him as a person, and I don't know about him in the media, but I know he has a lot of how to's and organizational books. So if he's a bad person, I'm sorry for bringing him up, but he did help me organize my ADD at one time. So that said, He talks about brain dumping first thing in the morning. You get up, you take a notepad, and everything that's on your mind, you just bleh on a paper. And then from there, you go on and you can plan your day and so on and so forth. But if that's not what you want to do, you can translate that to brain dump and meditate. I often recommend folks have a little notebook there, and there is no shame in coming in and out of meditation. So come out, oh, you had a thought and it seems important. So you write it down so your brain doesn't have to go, oh my God, don't forget this for the 20 minutes that you're trying to be there. If you're an active brain monkey mind person, um, go for a walk, dance. I even recommended that for a person who enjoyed dancing and had stopped but wanted to meditate. Well, dance for 10 minutes and then try to sit down. Go to
Mhm.
the gym and then try to sit down. If you are an active person, which I would say is either a fire sign, um, a fire sign, an air sign, or somebody who is just maybe just a very active person, sit. Maybe you're anxious, and try those activities before you sit. And it doesn't all have to be like physically active. It can just be mentally active. I mean, I don't see any shame or harm in playing Tetris before you meditate, because guess what? Your brain goes, oh, I organized something and now I can focus on other things like meditation. Those are my kind of tips to getting into it. What do you have, or what do you recommend, Katrina?
I completely agree with that. In fact, one of the most brilliant descriptions I ever saw of meditating is actually not about meditation at all. It was an episode of Star Trek Discovery. And in it, the computer, for a number of reasons, becomes sentient and begins to have emotions and fears. And the computer's name is Zora. And there's a crisis, of course, on the Enterprise, or actually on the Discovery, wrong show, on the Discovery. And they need the computer to do analytical stuff, but the computer is becoming distracted by feelings and different things that are happening. So one of the characters has the computer play a game with them. And as the computer begins to play this analytical game, which is similar to chess, the computer is able to function again. And
Yep.
it's because they're less attached to those thoughts and feelings and emotions. And one of the hallmarks of good meditation is to objectively observe. And I mentioned this briefly before. You and I came up with a discussion a few episodes back where we talked about how meditation can be reframed as holding space for yourself.
Yes.
And I like that because, a lot of people don't have a problem with meditation. They're really good at it. They're great at it, in fact, but more people do have a huge problem with meditation. So they don't even approach it. They don't even try because they're just like, I can't visualize or I can't meditate. And yeah, you can. You've just been misled about what it is. So my hints are, first of all, yeah, remove distractions, turn off your phone, turn off your tablet, stay away from screens for even 20 minutes or so before you meditate. Blow out the energy if you're feeling overwhelmed energetically, uh, like you said, by dancing or info dumping into a journal or um, exercising or going for a walk or taking a bath or whatever puts you back down into your body out of your head a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and then just stop. Just be present. You don't have to think a special way. You don't have to organize your thoughts in a particular way. Just be very, very plugged in and present. And when I say present, I mean that quite literally in do not right now think about the future. Do not right now think about the past. And you can do this by getting very into the tactile sensations of the present. What do you feel sitting in this position or lying in this position? How does the air around you and the temperature feel? What sounds do you hear? What are you touching? What are you smelling? Do you need to close your eyes because you're getting visual distractions around you? What is happening? Is the lighting wrong and you need to close a curtain? Really, before you meditate, plug into the absolutes of right here, right now, not what's going to happen in 20 minutes or an hour or tomorrow or next year, not what happened to you 2 days ago or 6 months ago. Be here, be present. I think that if people can just do that small thing of just being right here, right now, and tuning into really intently what they feel, what they hear, what they smell, what they taste, what they feel, everything around them, meditation will follow. And if you can do that for 5 minutes and then 15 minutes, and then 20 or 30 minutes, you are suddenly meditating. And when people say, I can't visualize, I love the exercise that Shannon McLaren shared several years ago. And that was, you already do it, you already visualize. Because if somebody says to you the word strawberry, you immediately see a strawberry in your head, exactly what it looks like. You see the pits, you see the seeds, you see the color. You could turn it around 3D in your mind. You know exactly what that looks like. That is visualizing. Visualizing isn't mysterious. It's a human ability that you are given by being human. You don't have to develop your powers of visualization. They're already there. You're already doing it. And so, like we said in the very beginning, making things accessible, meditation is very accessible for anyone, no matter how ADHD you are, no matter how neurodivergent you are, no matter how busy you are. Sit and just pay attention to the stimulus around you. Look at how it's affecting you and breathe.
And that piece on imagination and visualization, it's so key. Like you said, it's not mysterious, and I find myself encouraging people to use their memories when they are working. I think that's what you were describing. Is like when you're working through a meditation,
Mhm.
if it's a guided meditation or you're just trying to lead yourself through a visual experience, and you say walk up a mountain. I mean, you've either seen it in a movie, you've done it, or you can imagine what it looks like, and it's not something that takes away from your abilities to go into that process. In fact, it's important. I love asking people where their imagination comes from, and they're like, and I'm like, okay, so since you don't know, here we go. Here we go on this journey. It's become less of a detrimental tool and more of an inspirational tool that you can use to progress your visions, your experiences, and things like that. And then
Mhm.
as meditation opens up for you, as it flows for you, you may start to have different sensations. I love what Katrina was saying about the visual distractions as well. What people don't realize is how even our skin is impacted by light. So if you're in a bright room trying to meditate and you just cannot settle, even though you've stepped away from screens and you've lit the candles, the incense, and you've created the time and the space, or as Sylvia said, she gets right into it before writing a book. um, the lighting in the room could be harsh. Fluorescent lights are harsh, where if you get into a room with or no, it's incandescent bulbs are harsh,
Mhm.
isn't it? And then the
It's
fluorescent
all
bulbs,
harsh in different
they're
ways.
all bad. Get a blanket. Which is actually a real thing. You can
Mhm.
you can get a meditation blanket. I love my wool blanket from I did buy it from the devil, sorry, um Amazon. And when you cover yourself with that, not only are you taking care of the light piece, but you're also taking care of uh, something that condenses the energy around you, and it can actually make your meditations more potent. You can do this by meditating in a closet too. If nobody's ever tried
Mhm.
that, it's a lot of fun. Get over your boogeyman stories and just give it a shot because it's
That's
fantastic.
why things like float tanks and deprivation tanks are so conducive to that because it's removing absolutely any distraction that you have at all. It's really hard for people that are claustrophobic or have trouble with any kind of enclosed spaces, but it's a really amazing experience. We often tell people to use their powers of visualization for spell work. We
Mm-hmm.
want them to see what they're trying to manifest as a done deal. Show me that finalized outcome in your mind. What does it look like, taste like, feel like, smell like? What emotions are going through your body? What sensations are on your skin when you are driving that new car or when you are in that loving relationship? What does that feel like? And that's really hard if you're trying to manifest something you have never experienced before. You have to go through that filter of intellectualizing, knowing yourself, and computing what you think you would feel like in that situation. So, like with Heidi Pamela, if she's wanting to really do well with the dog show this weekend, then which I know she's going to ask tonight, um, she needs to draw on memories she has of winning Best in Show or winning whatever it was that she's going for this time. What did that feel like? But that first time, it would be really possibly hard for her to predict how she would react and feel. So sometimes we have to presume and create it from nothing. That's a little harder of a visualization. That's a bigger strawberry, maybe, than what we're talking about. But when you have had that or you felt something akin to that, it's easier to bring that into play. That's why when somebody comes to me, say, wanting a love spell, and they say, I fall in love really easily. It feels really good at first, but then it just starts to go south. I want to pull them back into how does it feel when it started?
Mm.
How does it feel when it was good? And get them familiar with that feeling again, because so often they're so tied into some traumatic ending that it had, they're not allowing themselves to feel the pleasure of how a relationship feels when it starts. So when I'm working with clients, that's one of the things I dig into regarding visualization, and even taking it into meditation, is to sit and meditate on what that feels like,
Yep.
and just awash yourself in a particular feeling.
There was, I thought, and I've not read any of Edgar Casey's books, so if there are probably people out there that know more about Edgar Casey than I do, but I'd had a meditation once where, um, oh, what did Heidi say? What if I ask the cards what I'll have for dinner?
You probably have a history of different things you're going to have for dinner and
The
can
better
visualize
question is,
that.
will it be good?
Yeah.
Will it be burned? Will it make me sick? These are all. um, but Edgar, it was my understanding that Edgar Casey would go to a point in time when something was cured or had a medication for it in his meditation, and then come back with answers for the people he was doing that medical intuition with.
Hmm.
I think we all have access to that capability, and it sounds exactly like what you were describing with spell work. And then in the case of Sylvia, you mentioned that you're writing a book right now, and again, not to tell you your process, but here we are talking about meditation that you said you don't have trouble with, and that's fantastic. What would it be like to use it to go and see your book, published, and open it up and see what chapters are there, or you know what made it the most interesting? Like, you read your book in the future, kind of bring some of that back and see if there's anything you would want to change before you even had to go into those kinds of thoughts and volume two, you know
If we look at a nonlinear time model, we can even cure the past in some ways with this. Now, I'm going to use myself as an example, with the medical issue I just went through. I could take this knowledge I have now, that everything's okay, everything's good, I'm safe, and take that back to me at a time when I was struggling and when I was afraid and when I was doubting. And I could hold space with myself in the past and work to heal that person who is troubled and upset. We
yeah.
can do that with our inner child. If we need to give that child space for harm that happened back when we were young, go back and sit with our younger self, knowing where we end up, knowing the outcomes, from what they're experiencing right then and share that with them and let them know good things, hold space with them like we would any child, and just be with them. And that has a traceable effect in our memories and in our minds when we do that, just as if we had been there. It doesn't mean that the bad thing didn't happen. It means, like everything means, and like the most important thing means, that how we responded to it shifted.
Right. And then you're more empowered. You're almost calling back your power in those instances. Now, Sylvia, I'd love to hear from you because you said you already do the visualizations with your book. I would love for you to see in the comment section what tips you might have about that envisioning process for you. Do you have something that is always your go-to? Love to share that with the community. That reframing, that holding space for your inner child process that you were just talking about, Katrina, is exactly what is encouraged for um, people that go through my soul retrieval process, because it's a part of you coming back in, trying to figure out, okay, wait a minute, like, you look different, you feel different, where do I fit back in this part of your life? And you know how can we move forward on the healing process, not bypass it, but move forward into strength. I've seen that be very, very powerful for a lot of people. Now, I think we have a great question here from Heidi, so put it up. What if you held hope for something in the past and something bad happened? How do you go about comforting yourself for the bad occurrence? Heidi, are you talking about you hoped that something bad would happen, as in like somebody would pay for something, or like, what do you mean by hoping for something bad?
I think what she's saying is that she had hope for something and it went sideways.
Okay.
And so she is grieving or having trouble with that experience. That's what I'm getting from that. I could be wrong,
No, that you
but
hoped for a good result, but it went sideways.
mhm.
Okay.
I think what we have to do with that is to go with the belief that even things that don't go the way we expected and wanted will ultimately benefit us and end up for the better. And I hate to sound all Pollyanna that way, but I've seen it happen over and over and over. That where we get lost is that, yes, we may hope for something good to happen, but we get married to that idea. And we
Mhm.
believe that if anything different happens, that um, it's all bad, that we just have not had a good outcome. An example for that is death of a loved one.
Mm.
So we have someone who is ill, a parent, a child, whoever it might be, and we are just praying and praying for a positive outcome. And then they die. And we're lost. We feel betrayed. We feel angry. We feel upset because our person is not now there with us. And we trusted that this would happen. We trusted that this was the best outcome. It had to be the best outcome, but they died. And I've had to counsel a lot of people who were in that situation. And really, a person's death, this has been one of the hardest things that I have had to put into my awareness and bring to my clients is a person's death is very rarely about us,
Mm.
especially in a suicide. I have a lot of clients come to me whose partners have committed suicide or siblings have committed suicide, parents have committed suicide, and they personalize that in a really big way. How could they do that to me? Look at the mess they've left me to clean up emotionally. I can't go forward. But when a person dies, whether it's by choice or not, it is not about us. It is about them and what their path was supposed to be in the world. And we can say things like, oh, they had so much life ahead of them. They had so much left to live. And the evidence suggests otherwise.
Right.
And So like Heidi was bringing up, a good medical test result and it comes back bad. Well, what does that mean? You know, I had a medical test that I hoped was going to be a certain way and it came back bad. I went through procedures and I am now on the road to being healthier than I've been in a very long time. So it takes us to where we're meant to be. One of my dearest friends is struggling with an aggressive cancer, and it's in her bones, it's in her brain, it's in her breast, it's metastasized. And she has aggressively worked to combat that cancer using a mixture of Western medicine and philosophical work, and has looked at all of the ways that she was allowing toxicity from her past to poison her life.
Mm.
All the relationships she had, that she bit back what she needed to say, that she kept them there out of some sort of nostalgia, although they were damaging her all the time. And so she did not get the results she wanted in terms of medical tests, but she's seeing the results she needed and wanted in terms of reframing her life in a specific healthful way. Now, I hope she stays with us for a very, very long time. But if she doesn't, she spent that time making sure that she was caring for herself in a really profound way. So often the outcomes that we don't want are the ones that help us the most. And so when we get just really dedicated to one outcome, we limit what we can achieve and what we can feel and what we can have.
I think, as far as my perspective on these things, it's my perspective is it's ever evolving. When I entered the woo woo community, it seemed to be the notion that you can have anything that you want. You just stay positive and you visualize and you hope, and maybe you get into a manifestation group and things will change, things will get better. Without the education that Katrina just delivered to say, hey, sometimes what we think is bad isn't, it's not finished. And that's why it seemed, I mean, you know, boiling water seems like chaos until the meal is done, right? So
Yeah.
there's that. And then there's a cold and sterile part of me that was, that looks at percentages as taught to me by my guru, which is everything has a percentage of probability. And you can use meditation or even a pendulum to tap into what that percentage of the outcome will be. And so if there, let's say you have 5 outcomes possible, you sit and you move through the experiences. Well, what if of this, the what if of that, the what if this, what if that, and then what feels more weighted. Again, bringing a pendulum into that experience, it can be used in your meditative experience to figure out. What he taught us was, okay, well, if something is 70% likely to happen, or I think he said 75%. It's a good teaching because I remember it. If it's 75% or more, then it's likely to happen. If it's 70 or less, then probably not. And then there's that 5% of ambiguity. And he would have us do energy work and prayers and different things to try to influence the likelihood and the outcome of certain things happening. But at the end of the day, there are, I think we've discussed it before, there are 5 types of karma, and one of them you have to go through. And this isn't the payback from the universe, but the energy finishing itself. And so, like Katrina was saying, this is the long road around of me saying that I do agree with her, is that some things have to happen, and what we are working towards through meditation, visualization, imagination is likely like suit I don't want to say better suited, but like it's a great tool for adjusting to your circumstances, to okay, I got the bad test result, Now let me manage my feelings through, and that's not to tell anybody to not visualize themselves as happy, healthy, and whole, but more, expanding the definition of happy, healthy, and whole. Maybe you got a bad test result, but you are, able to move through that day in a very powerful way, and happy, healthy, and whole the next day looks like you making up for it in rest. And that's just as much whole as activity. So there's a lot of different avenues to go through, and like Katrina said, when we start sort of diving into these labels of good, bad, and focused, holding on to out particular outcomes, it can get a little dicey. It can get a little trippy. Now, um, Katrina, not Katrina, Sylvia here gave us her answers. Let me see. She has a vision written down. So this is what Sylvia goes through for visualizing her book. I have my vision written down, and I say at least 3 times a day. I'm so happy and grateful now that I am best-selling nonfiction author. I speak I speak at conventions and have book signings. I'm a well-known speaker on the subject of healing type 1 diabetes, the US healthcare system, and advocacy for change in how type 1 diabetes is treated. This or something greater still. While I am saying this, I feel myself living from the dream as if it is happening. I am not observing myself from, and there's maybe it's a longer comment and Facebook is just not letting us see it. So
Yeah.
that is absolutely beautiful, and gets into there's a book out there called Scripting Your Life, and he talks about writing and moving through those things. So it sounds like you've incorporated like almost 3 kinds of meditation, right? So that's the speaking part, so the focus of speaking those words and the affirmations, the focus of writing it, and then the visualization piece. And so you've combined 3 meditation things, and like now that we've put it up on the screen, everybody's going to be reading it, and you're you're going to manifest it faster than
That's
ever. That's how
right.
that works, right?
Well,
Um,
Gwion Raven did that. Gwion Raven was, he speaks on a number of different magical topics, and his fascination and his absolute passion is magic and food.
mm,
And he is
oh,
very much a kitchen witch. And when he was teaching at PantheaCon one year, he had decided he was going to write a book on his um, his passion. It became the book, The Magic of Food. And so he had everyone who was in the room at his lecture say, Gwion, write the book. Gwion, write the book. And put energy toward him doing that. And he did that year write the book, and it was a beautiful book. So what you're describing exactly does happen. And
yeah,
what Sylvia is describing is basically dress for the job you want.
yes,
Get inside your future head and live that life as though it's already there, and focus on it more so in meditation and really see what that would feel like. Wear those shoes, dress up in your mom's shoes a little bit, and think about what that would be like to have that relationship you've never had that feels safe and comfortable and secure and loving. Think about having that job that you really, really want, and what would that really feel like and really be like. And not only does that let us ferret out whether we actually want that or not, but it puts energy toward what we're doing.
absolutely.
And so absolutely, yes.
I think uh, bringing wholeness and making it a complete picture is that how recognizing how that process can also, like Katrina said, bring up, do we actually want it? Do we, we talked about this before, zone of genius, and I always forget the second
Zone
one,
of ability.
zone of
Yeah.
ability.
Mhm.
Sometimes we're told and encouraged by others that we should or are able to do something, and it's like, yeah, I could, but I really don't want to. And
Mhm.
focusing like that, and also tapping into the body to see, is there any resistance in my body that's telling me like this isn't the right way to go. I was having a conversation earlier today with a person where it was like, yeah, I seem to get random cramps, but I have a hysterectomy. And it was like, yeah, because your body, one, is like, fuck that situation and that person. And it's trying to tell you.
Mhm.
It's like, I don't need a uterus to tell you that. And so as you're meditating, focusing, writing, saying the affirmations, paying attention to what your body is doing is really important as well, and not to hold those things back or shouldn't them. So we started this conversation on meditation and accessibility and what does it look like. And I think we've navigated from uh don't just sit down and do it, but make it your own. Whether that is, I mean, you can sit down and do it if that's your jam, because I think Sylvia was saying that's the best way for her to get to it and then get to everything after. But have your notebook, have your tea, have your coffee, have your, run around the house. I mean, for me, meditation is literally me running back and forth until I have everything I need, and then I sit down. and that's about a 10-minute process. As much as I encourage my students to have everything in one place at one time, I know I have energy to get out, so I'm usually running across the room, back and forth, ping ponging from place to place until I have all my stuff. Then, you know, whatever meditation looks like for you, as far as what it is to hold space for yourself, as Katrina said, and that can be a guided process. Now, you have an option when you're meditating to guide yourself outside of your experience or to guide yourself further inward. I mean, I think there's benefits to both. What do you think, Katrina?
I completely agree. When we are moving outside of ourselves, that can mean multiple things. It can mean forward projection, looking to things we wish to have happen and working that visualization aspect. It can mean going backwards and healing ourselves in the past, or it can mean something like astral travel, where we're completely externalizing and going off into different directions, energetically speaking, away from our physical body location. In the other instances, we're talking about managing the timeline and traveling to different times or different situations or different feelings, but sometimes we're totally externalizing and we're going to uh, go to different known um, astral places, common astral places, or we're talking to ascended masters or whatever that might be. Some people actually like to go on astral travels and have sex with entities and things like that. And that's a whole other experience than really what we're discussing in terms of daily meditation, but it is a fringe relative of that.
Yeah.
It's meditation adjacent. And we often, you and I, have to deal with the side effects of that, which I don't shit on astral travel or anything. But for one thing, it's intrusive. If you're astral traveling, hey, let's go see what Dahlia is doing. And I'm just going to drop in and say hello. Well, if Dahlia's taking a shit or something, she might not want me hanging out. Hey, Dahlia, what's up? How you doing? Or having an
Dahlia falls off the
intimate
toilet.
moment
What
with
the
her
fuck?
partner or something, and suddenly there's thruppling or, well, you don't know what that other person is doing necessarily. Now, sometimes there are people that are apart, couples that want to meet on the astral because they're not physically together and they want to share time. That's another thing because it's agreed upon.
Right.
Some people, when they're astral traveling, working with non-human entities or non-human spirits, can really get into some trouble and bring back attachments and little astral STDs and all kinds of things. Then you got to come see us and get it all cleaned up. So, there are all types of meditation, and the externalization from your body fully to have those experiences is another one, and certainly a more complicated and nuanced and possibly dangerous one.
Absolutely. And so definitely for, round 85 of meditation, and the real point of all of this is knowing what's possible and going into it with an intention. I think that that's something else that's not really talked about with meditation. I know it wasn't something shared with me. We would have meditations in my classes with my mentor, and we would have an intention, but it would only be so far. Like, if it would be, okay, well, connect with your higher self. Okay, but why? What, aren't I already connected to them? Can't they just talk to me? Why do we have to go through all of this? So, like, you know uh, to say, okay, well, connect with your higher self because you've been out of balance in your life, and this is what connecting with your higher self actually means.
Mhm.
It means them coming into your space, you going to theirs, using different visualization methods like taking stairs upward or going into your heart, inviting them in, but having a question when you get there to anchor you both
Mhm.
together. So it's not just, I mean, can you imagine meditating to meet a being, your higher self, an ascended master, whatever, is the same as if you go to a place to meet like a real living person. Can you imagine not
Yeah.
having
I think of
anything
the
to talk
groupie
about or
at
say?
the stage door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just standing there, and it's like,
Hello? I'm your biggest fan.
right. But if you're like, hey, wait a minute, I want to know why I'm suffering through this current situation right now because I'm over it. Or if you want to know why somebody's in your life, or um, I remember wanting to know at one point, like, how many lifetimes I had, who were they, and then when it was beyond 100, I was like, forget it. I changed my mind. I don't care. It's too much to catalog, you
Yeah.
know. But having that intention makes a difference, and it is the interlock that allows you to have your different meditative experiences. So if you've been thinking that meditating with your higher self should just be some empty conversation, or you're waiting for them to tell you something profound and you don't have a profound question, try something new, try anything new, and see where it takes you.
Another thing to think about, and this is a common thing I hear from people, and I see it. I used to teach meditation classes actively in the shop, and I haven't done that in a while. But we would have 9 or 10 people in this room to meditate. And it's a guided meditation. So I'm walking them step by step through it. Because when you have difficulty meditating, it helps to have, for one thing, distractions removed. So the room is dark. We've closed the curtains. Nobody's looking at you. My voice is amplified. So it's all around you. And that helped them to meditate better. But inevitably, what would happen is that like 7 of the 9 people would fall asleep. And so you're hearing snoring around the room and deep breathing around the room and all of this. And when you're sleeping, you are not meditating. You might be doing some dream time work, or you might be between the worlds in that liminal space where you can do some work. But if you are asleep, you're usually not meditating. And the thing about that you honestly have to look at is these are people who are exhausted.
Yeah.
They're so exhausted that they can't go 30, 45 minutes of being still and minus um, distraction without falling asleep. This is how tired these people are. And it's very difficult to effectively meditate when you're extremely tired.
Yep.
Now, that's why most advisors will tell you to meditate first thing in the morning.
Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
you're awake, you can get your coffee, or you can get, back in your body from sleep, and then you can actively meditate. But I mean, I do it. I meditate at night best. Um, but I also meditate in the mornings. And yeah, just if you're finding that you're frequently falling asleep during meditation, you're tired. And you need to correct that first before you start a meditative process, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And stress tired, exhaustion tired. There's
Hungry.
so many different types of tired where you might be like, well, I can stay awake during the day. Yeah, but you're stressed out. And so your body is trying to shut down in any way it can. It kind of like those people, they get to a point where they're uh, sleeping standing up or sleeping with their eyes open,
Mhm.
those people are wrecked, usually at that point. So,
And,
but they,
these people I'm working with when they go to sleep, these are professional people. These are intelligent people, police officers and nurses and paralegals and moms and people who are doing normal daily stuff. These aren't people who, are given to just being slovenly and just, all I do is sleep. So I really think that this is a crisis with people in America, especially right now, that they're not sleeping and gotta sleep. Like you said, there's so many different types of exhaustion. Having a good night's sleep doesn't cure exhaustion at all.
not at all, not even a little bit. So, when you're coming to meditate, and when we on the show are talking about meditation, we're bearing in mind a lot of these processes. There are times when I know about me, and I'm sure Katrina too, when when we're too exhausted to meditate, and so you take the nap. It's the secrets of the universe, and the thing that is going to correct your life will be there when you're not tired. And so you take the nap and then you choose to meditate at a different point of the day or the following day, and you move through those circumstances. But you know, your sleep is imperative to get. So you have your pre meditation setup, which is either activity, physical activity, mental activity, the brain dump, or you just sit down. Then in the process, I know for beginners, I usually recommend guided meditations because we need to get past the expectation that something should happen. So rather than just telling somebody not to think, I usually recommend focus on something
Tell
rather
them
than,
what to think.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, create it. And then, I will also recommend increments of time. So if you can't do the full amount of time, put on a timer and do 5 minutes, do 10 minutes, and work your way up. Um, and then from there, make sure you close out, get fully back in your body, shake a little, wiggle a little, and then get on with your day or journal about your experience. I find that journaling, or at least writing something cool down, makes it real for the next time, at least for 6 months at a time. That's how recently found my old spirituality journals from the very beginning. I was like, I was so excited about all of this stuff. There were aura photos, and I was like, man, this is great. Life will be perfect. It got more interesting. I wouldn't say perfect. Do you have any closeout tips for meditation that we haven't covered, Katrina? Anything you can
I
think?
I think just do it. And when I meditate, I always meditate in the morning. And well, I meditate in both the morning and night, but I always meditate in the morning.
Okay.
I don't like my meditation does not always occur in the morning, but every morning I meditate is what I'm trying to say. And mine is very simple. I mean, I wake up, I make sure I'm well in my body, and I just find a comfortable position. I'm still lying down. And I will just start with today's Wednesday. Today, I need to do this, this, and this. What I do in addition to this is good. I find rest in the day. I gives myself affirmations. I program my day that way.
Hmm.
And then I rest in between the spaces, looking at what my day is I'm expecting my day to be. I visualize good outcomes for the things that I'm doing. And sometimes those outcomes, like Heidi Pamela was bringing up, will change from what I expected. And what I'm visualizing is that the outcome is going to be okay. For instance, my Crossroads Occult website just got hacked in a really big way. Ours did, and it got fixed. I was able to manage that, but the Crossroads Occult website is so huge that there's a lot that can go on. Ours
Oh,
was a pretty small site, and it was happening right when I was healing. And so I visualized that it would be repaired, that it would be safe, that it would be working perfectly, that I would not have to rebuild the entire site, um, that it would just work and be perfect. And I imagined that the way that would happen is I would fix it. Well, as it turned out, the way that it happened is I handed a person money and they fixed it. So that was not my desired out process, the desired journey, but it got me to the outcome I wanted.
Mm.
And I was much happier because they found things I never would have looked at or never would have found.
Wow.
So, we don't have to assign the journey, let's assign the outcome,
Right.
how we want to feel at the end of it. And that's how I program my day. And honestly, that whole thing takes maybe 10 minutes. And it has become part of my waking up process that gets me grounded in the day and grounded in my body and ready to start it and honestly excited to start it. And so I think find your way, find your plan for how you're going to do it. Like you were saying, absolutely guided meditations to start. YouTube is filled with them. Look up Steve Noble. He's an amazing guided meditation person. He does black angel fire transmissions and things like that. Lots of healing meditations to heal your past. And it's just a wonderful experience to start with. We all have things in our past we need to heal. And then you can springboard from there into other things. So that's my recommendation.
I love that. Not just for your visualization of your day and holding space for the outcome, focusing on the desired outcome, but you can do
Mhm.
that with everything, including meditation. So that's the last piece is how do you want to feel, in my opinion, that's the
Mhm.
last piece is how do you want to feel at the end of this meditation and what will get you there? you know After you've had your intention, your time, and your space, how did you want to feel at the end of it all? So there's a lot of other little nuanced things about meditation, but we just wanted to kind of cover the basics here. um, and kind of show you that it's we talk about it all the time because yes, it really is that simple. It really is just get it done, do it, find your love for it, find your passion and your drive for it, and make it your own. And don't let anybody else tell you like, oh well, that's not meditation because you can't sit in the lotus position. Well, you know next lifetime I will ask God for better hips. I mean, I that's all that's left to do. I'm going to continue to do what makes you amazing. But with all of that, we hope you've enjoyed the broadcast. Like and subscribe. I didn't say all that nonsense in the beginning, but share it, like it if you like. And we will see you next Thursday on Crossroads of Cognizance. Bye, everybody.
Bye.